Isn't God good to somebody in here? Isn't God been better than that to you? I could imagine if He ain't been that good. Come on now. God's been a little bit better than what we've been given credit for. And I don't know why we're still sitting on our feet when God's been too good than what we deserve. If He didn't give me everything He's given me, He'd still be good. If He didn't make every promise He promised me, He'd still be good. But He's been better than that even. Now, I didn't give Him many verses, but I do have a word. If you have your Bibles, you can turn to John chapter 11. I'm going to try to refrain myself because we mainly get to the good part where Lazarus comes back. But there's a lot in between there that we have to study about disbelief and not trusting that we need to work on. Me and myself especially. Because sometimes it's hard to trust God. And I've been challenged with that. I've been challenged when I said, hey, God, is this where you want me and this is what you want me to do? And He doesn't necessarily answer me right away. But I'm trying to get better with that, and we're going to work on that today. And I'm going to skip around. I'm going to go here and there. I might read the whole thing. You never know. But we'll be done when God's done. And it says, now a certain man was sick named Lazarus of Bethany, the town of Mary and her sister Martha. Now, we see he's a certain man, and any time there's a certain in front of a name or a person, we know that they're good and they're close to Jesus. They're certain. We are a certain kind of people set apart from the world. We got to make sure that we're in a certain situation. It was that Mary which anointed the Lord with ointment and wiped His feet with her hair, whose brother Lazarus was sick. Now we've seen that the sister of Lazarus has already served Jesus, and she ministered Jesus. We learned ministered means to take care of one's needs or help somebody as you can. Therefore his sister sent unto him, saying, Lord, behold, he whom thou lovest is sick. When Jesus heard that, he said, this sickness is not unto death, but for the glory of God, that the Son of Man might be glorified thereby. Now, he's already told her once that the sickness is not what's meant to take Lazarus out. This sickness is not unto death. There's a lot of times we get into situations where we're sick or we're hurt, but we all of a sudden think this is what's taking me out. But God steps in and says, this isn't the end for you yet. You still got some work to do. You still got some moving forward to do. But this sickness is not unto death. But we don't want to hear that sometimes, because sometimes we throw a pity party for ourselves and we want it to be the end. Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. When you get into the will of God and you're close to Him and you serve Him with everything you have, you'll notice there's love coming back. It's not a one-way street when you love God. If you're close to Him, He'll come close to you. When he had heard, therefore, that he was sick, he abode 2 days still in the same place where he was. Now this is where it starts getting good. He abode where he was. Then after that he said to his disciples, let us go into Judea again. And his disciples say unto him, Master, the Jews of late sought to stone thee, and thou goest there again? Last time we were there, Jesus, they tried to take you out. They wanted to finish you off because they know what you're starting to do now is pushing you closer to the cross. And they know when he got on the cross, it was game over. We're going back again. Aren't you glad when you get in a situation where it's bad and you might think Jesus don't want to be around me in my mess? He goes back to where the place where you almost got him killed. I serve a great God. I don't know about you. We're going back to the place where we almost messed it up last time, where it was almost over for us, and the place where we almost got killed, basically. But God's not afraid of my mess. He's a king that's seated at a throne. We serve a lot of kings that might pace the floor when they get in a situation. And sometimes the kings of this world might get worried. And what are we going to do now? But my king's seated at the right hand of the Father. He doesn't pace the floor wondering what he's going to do next. Then we'll skip down. We know that he's going to a place where he's could possibly get killed. And his disciples are wondering, why are we going there? And he says, Lazarus is asleep. He's asleep, he'll get better, won't he? If he's resting. And Jesus had to plainly say, Lazarus is dead. Now we're in a place where we're wondering, well, if he died, why are we going there? What are we going to do there now for him? He's already gone. Well, we're going to prove a point. Jesus said unto them plainly, Lazarus is dead. And I am glad for your sake that I was not there. Now, when God knows that you're dying and you're in a situation, and he says something along the lines of, I'm glad I'm not there, you might have to wonder about that. That made me laugh a little bit. When you're dying on your way to the grave, and God said, I'm glad I'm not there, that's more than just him saying, I'm glad he's dead. That's more than him saying, I'm glad he's gone. That's him saying, I've got a way to prove a point now. I've got a way that the Son of God might be glorified now. Now it's to the point where I can step in and I can really do something with this. Because if I just heal them from the sick, they've seen me do that. If I just healed his eyes, they've seen me do that. But when I walk to the grave and I say, Lazarus, come forth, and he comes out bound hand and feet, they can't turn that down now. I've done what I've come to do. He's not just sick, he's gone. But he's coming back. Lord, if thou hadst been here, my brother would have not died. But I know that even whatsoever thou wilt ask of God, God will give it to thee. We just heard about we've been asking God for money, for better opportunity, and it's not always about that, but sometimes you really got to get down and say, God, I'm sick and this ain't right. And I know what you say will come to pass. It's not right and it don't look good, but sometimes God will wait till whatever that thing is dead so he can show you he can bring it back. If thou hadst been here, my brother would have not died. Has anyone been having something they want to see come to life that's all of a sudden died? It might be a marriage. It might be something your dreams. Something that is in God's aligned with God's will. And you're wanting it to come to life, but all of a sudden it's starting to perish a little bit, and it's starting to get behind you, and you're kind of starting to forget about it. After 4 days of being dead in the grave, they might have started to think, well, he's gone now, it's all over. But that thing's dead now to you. But how many knows when Jesus gets in the situation? I don't have to go any farther. Jesus said unto her, Thou brother shall rise again. And Martha said unto him, I know that he shall rise again in the resurrection at the last day. And Jesus said unto her, he gets a little gangster on her. He turns to her and says, Martha, I am the resurrection. You don't have to wait till in the last day, because the resurrection is standing in front of you. If it's dead, I'm here to bring it back to life. I am the resurrection. He had to prove the point that even if something was laying in the grave, already gone when the resurrection shows up, the situation can turn back around. Yet shall he live, and whosoever liveth and believeth in me shall never die. Believest thou this? If you thought you were dead, it was just God's little break time for you. We always joke about Lazarus got a few days up in heaven, and he's probably a little disappointed when he got brought back. But now Lazarus is ready to get back into God's will again. He's brought back to life and probably refreshed. Now we're going to go to the part where Jesus can also feel emotion. They joke about it. It's the easiest Bible verse to memorize, but it's got a lot more meaning than you might think just for 2 words. We get into times sometimes when we get down and we think, God, where are you? But God's right there with us. And this verse is proof. I'm thankful that my king doesn't sit on a throne and laugh at me when I'm down and I'm weeping. I'm thankful that my king doesn't make fun of me and push me down even farther. My God will weep with me. He's with the Jews, and he's with his sisters, Lazarus' sisters, and they are weeping. My God feels my emotions. And as Christians, we go through a lot of them, especially with persecutors. We got people that we want to be saved. We get emotional over them because we know their soul's going to hell. And it's got to be blank and straightforward. I'm sorry, I can't tell you that just because you're friends with them, they're going to heaven with you. They can't shirt tail with you to heaven. But sometimes we got to tell them, hey, your soul's going right to hell. And if you hang on the way you're going with it. But I want to show you that there is a light you can follow. Sometimes we get emotional over that, though, because they don't always want to hear what we have to say. And God feels that with us. Jesus wept with Mary and Martha. He felt what they felt, because it says right before this, it says it was the one who Jesus loved. He was a certain man. Now, are you into a place with your relationship with God? If you were sick and you were dying, would He weep with you? Or would He just sit there and wonder how He's going to bring you back? Would He feel the same emotion? Or would He let you lay in the grave? You got to be in a certain relationship with God to where He feels what you feel even when you're going through it. And now, Jesus therefore again groaning in Himself cometh to the grave. It was a cave, and a stone lay upon it. Now I find this part funny because this is right, they call this Lazarus Saturday. And then the next day is Palm Sunday. And then it goes to Holy Week. And then it goes, the next week is Jesus' crucifixion. And I find it funny that Jesus asked them to roll a stone away. But I feel like He knew that in His close coming time, He's going to have to roll His own stone away. So He's saving His strength for when it's His time to push back the stone. He asked them, roll the stone away. But Martha, the sister of him that was dead, saith unto the Lord, by that time he stinketh, and he had been dead for 4 days. Now when you're dead, you're physically dead, you're gone from this earth, but when you're spiritually dead, you're away from God. And you never want to get to the place where you're starting to stink a little bit, because your neighbor might start to smell you a little bit, and what you're living in might start to come to light a little bit. And I'm not saying this to be funny, but if you're to a place where your relationship is drifting away and you're spiritually dying, you will start to stink, and your sin will find you out. Don't stink. Jesus said, I not unto thee that if thou would believest, thou shouldst see the glory of God. We're getting ready to see the glory of God. We know that Jesus, if He's asking them to roll the stone away, He's got a plan. He's not just going in there to do some little ritual like other gods might do. He's not going in there to sing Kumbaya. He's going in alone, but coming out with Lazarus. We know that if He's going to make them take the stone away, He's got a plan set for Lazarus. And we're going to go to verse 43. And when he thus had spoken, the cry with a loud voice, Lazarus, come forth. And he that was dead came forth bound, hand and foot, with grave clothes, and his face was bound with a napkin. Jesus said unto them, loose him and let him go. God will not only bring you back from what you've been dead from for 4 days, but He'll also take the time to take the chains off from what was holding you, and take the clothes off from what you look like, because where you're going is not what was behind you. You shouldn't still be wearing the grave clothes from what you were dead from. My title is From the Tomb to the Table, because when we go to chapter 12, verse 2, it said, There they made him a supper, and Martha served. But, how many knows when there's a but, the story changes around. Lazarus wasn't in the grave no more. Lazarus was one of them that sat at the table with him. When there's a but in the situation, God knows how to turn it around. He'll take you from the grave where you were dead and bound to the supper at the table. He's not afraid to lift you higher and higher as you go. If you're dying and you're living in a situation of death, come to the altar. God's getting ready to walk in your tomb. And next thing you know, you'll be seated at the table with him. Like I said, I don't serve a king who sits and wonders. I serve a king who sits at the right hand of the Father and makes intercession with him daily. From the tomb to the table. God's been too good. He's brought me back from being dead. I'm not afraid to admit it. I've been dead before, and I started to stink a little bit. But God said, it's time to draw near. I'm walking into your tomb now, and I'm bringing you back from what killed you. I'm bringing you to the table now. It gets good at the table. You got to remember, though, the devil's always going to try to kill you again. From the tomb to the table, always remember, God's not afraid to walk into your tomb and bring you back.